Do you keep attracting the same type of romantic partners, or finding yourself in similar relationship problems over and over? What if these patterns are not coincidence or bad luck, but actually predictable results of psychological programming that happened during your earliest years? Your childhood experiences with caregivers create internal blueprints for love that unconsciously guide your romantic choices, expectations, and behaviors throughout your adult life. Understanding this connection could be the key to breaking negative relationship patterns and creating the healthy love you actually want. Most people think they choose romantic partners based on attraction, compatibility, and conscious preferences. But psychological research reveals that we are unconsciously drawn to relationships that feel familiar, even when familiar is not healthy or satisfying. Your brain learned what love looks like by watching and experiencing your earliest relationships, and it continues using those templates to recognize and create romantic connections. Here is how your childhood affects your love style as an adult, and why this awareness can transform your relationship patterns. If you grew up with inconsistent caregiving where love and attention were unpredictable, you likely developed an anxious love style characterized by fear of abandonment and need for constant reassurance. Your caregivers might have been loving sometimes but unavailable, critical, or emotionally distant at other times. This taught your nervous system that love is unstable and must be earned through perfect behavior, which creates adult relationships where you feel constantly worried about losing your partner and need excessive validation to feel secure. If you experienced emotional neglect or had caregivers who were physically present but emotionally unavailable, you probably developed an avoidant love style that feels most comfortable with independence and emotional distance. You learned that relying on others for emotional needs leads to disappointment, so you unconsciously choose partners who cannot provide deep intimacy, or you sabotage relationships when they become too close and vulnerable. This protects you from the pain of unmet emotional needs, but also prevents the deep connection you might secretly crave. If you grew up in a chaotic household with addiction, mental illness, violence, or unpredictable caregivers, you might have developed a fearful or disorganized love style that simultaneously craves and fears intimate connection. You want love desperately, but also expect it to be dangerous or painful, which creates relationships characterized by intense passion followed by dramatic conflicts and instability. You might be drawn to partners who are unavailable, controlling, or emotionally volatile because this chaos feels like love to your nervous system. If your childhood involved taking care of a parent's emotional needs, dealing with family crises, or being praised for being mature and responsible beyond your years, you likely developed a caretaking love style where you feel most valued when you are rescuing or fixing your romantic partners. You unconsciously choose people who need help, have problems you can solve, or depend on you for emotional stability, because this gives you a sense of purpose and control in relationships. Have you ever noticed that you keep ending up in relationships with people who have similar problems or treat you in similar ways to your early experiences? This is your unconscious mind recreating familiar dynamics, even when they are not healthy. Let me know in the comments if you recognize these patterns. If you had caregivers who were loving but overprotective, controlling, or had difficulty allowing you to develop independence, you might struggle with boundaries in romantic relationships. You either become enmeshed with partners and lose your sense of self, or you rebel against any influence and have difficulty with commitment and compromise. You might also have trouble distinguishing between love and control, which can make you vulnerable to manipulative or possessive partners. If you experienced early loss through death, divorce, or abandonment, you likely carry deep fears about people leaving that affect every romantic relationship. You might become clingy and possessive to prevent abandonment, or you might leave relationships first to avoid being left. Either pattern prevents you from experiencing secure, lasting love because you are always operating from fear rather than trust and openness. If you grew up in a household where emotions were not acknowledged or expressed healthily, you probably struggle with emotional intimacy and communication in romantic relationships. You might have difficulty identifying your own feelings, expressing needs and concerns directly, or understanding your partner's emotional experience. This creates relationships that feel surface level or filled with misunderstandings and unresolved conflicts. The powerful thing about understanding these childhood influences is that awareness creates choice. Once you recognize your unconscious patterns, you can begin to challenge them and make different decisions about partners, behaviors, and relationship dynamics. You can learn to heal old wounds, develop new relationship skills, and choose partners who support your growth rather than trigger your childhood programming. This process often benefits from professional therapy, especially therapy that addresses attachment patterns and childhood trauma. However, you can also begin this work by paying attention to your relationship patterns, practicing new behaviors in current relationships, and being intentionally vulnerable with safe, supportive partners who can help you experience healthier love dynamics. Your childhood does not have to determine your romantic future, but understanding its influence gives you power to create the relationships you actually want rather than just repeating what you learned early in life. Which childhood experiences do you think have most influenced your adult love patterns? Share your reflections in the comments below. Understanding these connections is the first step toward creating healthier relationships. If this video helped you recognize patterns between your childhood and romantic relationships, please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more content about healing relationship patterns and creating healthier connections. Give this video a thumbs up if these insights felt valuable for understanding your relationship history. Remember, recognizing childhood influences on your love style is not about blaming your past or your caregivers. It is about understanding yourself with compassion and taking responsibility for creating the relationships you want moving forward.